Now we're going to add the code that animates the photo view. Earlier, we created the animated view for the following words in the main view. And specifically, we put the code in mainViewController.h and mainViewController.m. We can now reuse most of that code to animate the photo view. Remember, this is all about reusing code to save time and energy, but it's also to keep your programs clean so that they're easy to modify. Now here's the photo view as we've created it so far, and this is the view we're going to animate. And we're going to reuse some of the main view controller code that we put in the header here and the implementation file here. One of the things we're going to pick up for the header file is the timer and the speed and the falling image. We're also going to pick that up. We're going to be using that UI image, the speed, and the NS timer. We're going to need to use a different word for it, a word timer. We're going to call it a photo timer, and we're going to declare a property for photo timer as well. There are two other things we're going to need, a UI image picker controller delegate and a UI navigation controller delegate. We're going to need to put those in to control the ability to access media from the iPhone, in this case photos from the photo library, which I'll talk about a little bit later. But first, let's get started in PhotoViewController.h. So we're first going to start with the UI image picker controller delegate, which is conveniently spelled out for us by Xcode. This protocol defines methods that our delegate object has to implement in order to interact with the image picker interface, which is what we use to pick photos from the photo library. We also need the UI navigation controller delegate. Now, the UI navigation controller delegate protocol defines methods that a navigation controller delegate can implement to change the behavior when the view controllers are pushed and popped from the stack. And this is about going to and from the photo picker, the image picker. Close bracket. Might as well hit return and show our code block here, because this is where we're going to add a few more things. We are declaring a UI image picker controller, which is image picker controller. We're declaring a UI image view. We're just calling that image view. We're using our UI image, which is falling image. We're going to use our speed instance variable, and we're going to use a timer. We're going to call this one photo timer. So this is a bit of a departure from what the code was in main view controller, and the big difference is that we're setting up an image view using the UI image picker controller delegate protocol here. This defines methods that our delegate must implement to interact with the image picker. The methods of this protocol notify our delegate when the user either picks an image or cancels the picker operation altogether. And we're also using the UI navigation controller delegate here. We're using this protocol, which defines methods that a navigation controller delegate can implement to change the behavior when view controllers are pushed or popped, which is what happens when you go to the image picker and back again. We also use the image picker controller class, which manages customizable, system-supplied user interfaces for taking pictures and movies on supported devices, such as the iPhone 4 and the iPod Touch, and for choosing saved images and movies as well for use in our app, which is what we're going to use it for. The image picker controller manages user interactions, delivers the results of those interactions to the delegate object we have. So that's a very useful class. In this case, we don't have to do anything except use the image picker controller to grab our image from the photo library. And we know that'll work. We also use a UI image view, of course, an image view object that provides a view-based container for displaying either a single image or for animating a series of images, which is what we're going to be doing. In fact, for animating the images, the UI image view class provides controls to set the duration and frequency of the animation. And for our falling image, we're using a UI image object, which is, of course, the best way to display image data. You can create images from files, from Quartz image objects, or from raw image data. Quartz, by the way, is at the center of all graphics in Cocoa. It provides the basic graphics data structures and drawing routines, as well as Mac OS X Windows Server. In fact, all drawing in Quartz involves rectangles. The UI image class also offers several options for drawing images to the current graphics context using different blend modes and opacity values. Finally, we use an NS timer. The NS timer class creates timer objects, and a timer object waits until a certain time interval has elapsed and then fires, sending a specified message to a target object. So like we can create an NS timer object that sends a message to a window telling it to update itself after a certain time interval. We're going to use it actually to control the pace of the animation. Now we're going to do a property declaration for the timer, photo timer, which by the way will fix the warning in our app delegate that we saw earlier. What we need here is a new IB action show info. This is the method we're declaring here, and we're going to write in our photoviewcontroller.m implementation file that will allow us to connect that light info button in the photo view that we just copied over from the main view to a show info method that does something different than the one in the main view. So in order to do that, we need a show info, and we need the property declaration as well. Non-atomic, retain, because we're going to keep it around, our NS timer, photo timer. Now, as you see right away, Xcode is telling us that property photo timer requires the method photo timer to be defined, and we need to use @synthesize, or we have to provide our own implementation. Well, obviously, what we're going to do is use @synthesize, like we did before, to create the accessor method. So now that we've finished here in photoviewcontroller's header file.h, we move to photoviewcontroller.m. Now, of course, the first thing we need to do is we need to import our app delegate, which had set up the scroll view. And second, right after this implementation here, we would like to use an @synthesize to set up the accessor methods for photo timer. Now already we have another warning. It's an incomplete implementation. Well, we know that. That's what we're here to do, finish the implementation. So now we want to use some of the same code we used in main view controller. Let's take a look at it again. Right here, after loading the view from the nib file in the viewDidLoad method, we have this, the background color. And to save time, we can simply copy that by choosing Edit, Copy, and going into photoviewcontroller.m and finding our viewDidLoad method. Here's our viewDidLoad method here. It's commented out. What we want to do is we want to use this viewDidLoad method. In order to do that, we're going to take out these comments right here. And right after the super viewDidLoad, we want to paste the code we just copied. So we're setting the background color, the same as the main view. And we're using exactly the same code. Next, we're going to set up a default image to use before the user chooses in the image picker. So we're going to set up falling image with UI image, image named, we're going to just call it falling image.png. And we're going to add this image to our project later. This will be the default image that appears before the user chooses a new image from the image picker. And we want to retain, and we want to set up the timer. Turns out that we're going to use the same code for the timer as well, but we'll type it in here quickly. NS timer, scheduled timer with time interval, and we're going to make this time interval only 0.2 seconds. We're not going to use the invocation part. We are going to use the target self and selector on timer. And user info will be nil, and repeats was yes. So now we have to, of course, add our onTimer method to make this work. That would go below here. As you recall, back in mainViewController.m, we have an onTimer method right here. It uses a UI label. It has an animation block. So rather than having to type all of this in again, let's just copy it. Now we are going to heavily edit it because it was really designed for an entirely different purpose. But you'll see how easy it will be. Copy and paste it. So we choose Edit, Copy, and we go to photoviewcontroller.m, and we'll paste it right here. Edit, paste. Now, we need to immediately change our UI label because what we're doing is a UI image view of falling image view, and we're allocating a UI image view. And we can get rid of all of this. What we really want to do is init with image, falling image. Second, we want to add a constant speed. We don't need falling image view text, falling image text color, font, or background color, or adjust to width. So really, we can just delete them by tapping the delete key after selecting them. And we don't need the banner view either since we're not using that on the second view. So we have our self view, add subview, falling image view. Our frame is a CG rect make. We're going to keep the CG rect make coordinates pretty much the same, except we're going to start it lower from the top. Instead of a -100 as we were using before, an offset above the top of the screen, we're going to put it at 50 pixels down from the top of the screen. We're going to keep our alpha value, and we're going to keep the animation block pretty much the same. It's animate with duration, which animate changes to one or more views using the duration and completion handler, and we have the completion handler down here. So what we're going to do is back this up a little bit so you can see it better. It doesn't really matter how you format the text in Xcode as long as you have all of these symbols correctly proportioned, closing and opening the same number of squirrely brackets, etc. So once again, we're animating with duration using the speed. We're setting the animation duration to the speed, the delegate to the self, did stop selector, so that we know when the animation is done. The falling image view is going to go to the same place at 60, 500, 200 by 200. So it's going to go from here down to here. Those are the coordinates of our animation. When it's completed, we're going to remove falling image view from the super view, and it's going to release falling image view, just like it did on the other side in the main view. So here we've successfully reused a lot of code, and we've practically finished our second photo view.